We are going further out in the sea, and we are making many different offshore wind farms and then connecting them to an artificial island.
When it comes to the world, green energy is something that people are doing, and yet many others are not. Nations are often debating quite a bit about whether massive green energy projects are capable or able to do what they feel needs to be done. And oftentimes, they just stick with oil and gas products to get by. Denmark, though, is not one of those nations, as they're aiming to truly make strides in order to make their nation green, including making an island powered by wind generators that'll then power millions of homes. Allow us to break down for you Denmark's $34 billion green energy island. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 6. The island that'll be made. Denmark is indeed aiming to build a $34 billion artificial wind energy island, which will be located 50 miles, 80 kilometers offshore in the North Sea, near the Jutland Peninsula in the north. Construction of the island is expected to start in 2026. The Danish coalition government has agreed to take a 51% stake in the island. The private sector will hold the remainder. The Danish government's website says, the state will own the majority of the island, but private companies will be crucial for the project to fulfill the potential as regards to innovation, flexibility, cost-effectiveness, and business potential. While many green energy projects have gone and been discussed, a whole island powered by wind is absolutely something on a different scale. And yet it could be the guiding light for other nations to do a similar kind of project if they feel it would be worth it. The Energy Hub will serve as an offshore power plant that gathers and distributes green electricity via the grid from hundreds of wind turbines surrounding the island directly to consumers in countries that border the North Sea. High seawalls will protect it on 3 sides from rough North Sea weather, and the 4th side will feature a dock. The artificial island will offer the best opportunities to expand the project, for example by building a harbor and facilities for storage and conversion of green electricity from the nearby wind turbines in the sea. It is the long-term ambition to be able to store green electricity on the island, convert it to liquid green fuel, and send it via subsea cables to Denmark and neighboring countries. Furthermore, the abundance of offshore wind energy can be used to produce climate-friendly fuels for shipping, aviation, heavy industries, or heavy-duty vehicles. As stated before, this could be a beacon of sorts to help show the kind of abilities that wind power not only would have, but how it would be able to work without going and infringing on land that could be used for other things. Number 5. The many parts that make it up. The island itself will be artificial, but in terms of the wind turbines, the Danish are already planning for upgrades. The first phase, set to have a capacity of 3 gigawatts (GW), will involve approximately 200 offshore wind turbines sending electricity to the hub, which will distribute it to nearby countries via the grid. In the future, the capacity of the hub could be expanded to 10 gigawatts. This, Danish authorities say, would be enough to power 10 million homes in Europe. Depending on its final capacity, the island will cover an area between 120,000 and 460,000 square meters. The estimated cost of building the artificial island, 10 gigawatt of capacity, and required transmission grid will amount to 210 billion Danish krone, $33.97 billion. The energy hub in the North Sea will be the largest construction project in Danish history, said Dan Jorgensen, the Danish Minister for Climate. It'll make a big contribution to the realization of the enormous potential for European offshore wind, and I'm excited for our future collaboration with other European countries, he added. In addition to the artificial island, a second energy hub of 2 gigawatts is also being planned for the island of Bornholm in the Baltic Sea. Denmark is something of a pioneer when it comes to offshore wind projects. The world's first offshore wind farm in waters near the Danish island of Lolland was commissioned by Ørsted, the company formerly known as Dong Energy, in 1991. Other Danish firms, such as turbine maker Vestas, are major players in wind power. It's encouraging to know that there are nations like Denmark who not only take green energy seriously, but also make huge strides to try and increase its efficiency. And thankfully for the world, they're not alone in that goal. Number 4. South Korea. South Korea has unveiled a plan for a 48.5 trillion won, $43.2 billion plan to build the world's largest offshore wind farm by 2030, showing that Denmark isn't alone in trying to use wind power to power a country. The project will have a maximum capacity of 8.2 gigawatts. That's the equivalent of energy produced by 6 nuclear reactors. It's considerably larger than the world's current largest offshore wind farm, Hornsea 1 in the UK, which has a capacity of 1.12 gigawatts. The project will provide up to 5,600 jobs and help achieve the goal to boost South Korea's wind power capacity to 16.5 gigawatts by 2030 from 1.67 gigawatts now. Utility and engineering companies involved include Korea Electric Power Corp, SK E&S, Hanwha Engineering and Construction Corp, Doosan Heavy Industries and Construction Company, CS Wind Corp, and Samkang M&T Company. That's according to Reuters. The project is a major part of South Korean President Moon Jae-in's Green New Deal, which, as Electric reported, was announced in July 2020. Investment in electric and hydrogen vehicles also plays a major part in that plan, which aims to make the country carbon neutral by 2050. If it was just one nation trying to do something like this, you could write it off in many different ways. But with two doing it, well, that's a trend, a noticeable one. Number 3. Setting the tone for the future. The fact that so many countries are trying to do massive green energy projects is very encouraging. Even China's getting into it by starting to make massive swaths of solar energy panels that deliver power to its people, and more projects like this are on the way. Even the Paris Agreement, as it's called, is aiming to help curb the use of carbon emissions so that the people of the world can focus more on getting renewable energy sources made to power the world. And while 10 million European homes may not sound like a lot when there are 8 billion people in the world, that's still a step in the right direction. Plus, that's just one wind farm. The one in South Korea is set to be bigger, and Denmark is already planning that second island to help boost their energy output. Plus, if other nations get in on this action in their own ways, that'll slowly build up for how many homes, factories, and eventually vehicles via companies like Tesla are being powered by green energy. Number 2. The other renewable energy sources. A question many should have after hearing things like this is, should all nations try and make wind-powered islands? No, not necessarily. There are many other kinds of renewable energy sources that'll help nations become less reliant on gas and oil. They'll just have to pick the one that suits them best. A great example of this is the United States. While the nation as a whole hasn't been the best in producing green energy in a mass-producing kind of way, the potential is there. Mainly because the western side of the country is filled with empty deserts that many feel would be perfect for arrays of solar panels. Spread across many states, there are some who believe that an array could be built to power the whole country in just a few years' time. Obviously, that's a bit subjective, but the point stands that there is room and potential for greater green energy in the country. And there's also hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy, and more that can be studied and built upon to make greater things that can produce green energy in better supply. Many will resist, and many will do so for profit over trying to save the world, if you will. And that's a dangerous path to go on. Number 1. The point of no return. When people hear the words global warming, they often roll their eyes and dismiss it, or they'll talk about it in great detail because they know it's happening. This is yet another one of those dividing issues that can plague people of the world. But whether you believe it or not, it is happening, and it's getting worse every year. The polar ice caps are melting, and areas of the world are heating up in ways that is causing havoc on the weather system. Just look at places like California and India for proof of this. The reason things are getting worse is because the world isn't doing enough to promote green energy, and thus we're pouring more and more gas and emissions into the air, and that's causing things to heat up. Some scientists are even saying that if things don't change rapidly and soon, we could be headed to a true point of no return, and that could doom the planet long term. That's why these green energy projects are so important, because they can prove there's another way, a better way, and help save our planet in the process. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the island that Denmark as well as South Korea is making that'll be 100% green? Are you shocked by some of the size and scale and figures that the island is going to utilize? Does seeing projects like this prove that there are places truly taking green energy seriously? Will others follow this trend in your eyes? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.